May 14, 2025, the Public Amenities Commission meeting we call to order. Can we do the roll call, please?
Yes, Commissioner Lang,
Here.
Commissioner Galassi,
Here.
Commissioner McCauley, Commissioner Youssef Zai.
Here. All right, moving on to item C, salute for the flag. Everybody please rise. Ready to begin?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, moving on to item D, the approval of the order of the agenda. Does any commissioners wish to pull an item from, or wish to move any items on the agenda?
I do not.
Commissioner McCauley?
No, none for me.
Okay. Do we need to make a motion to approve the order of the agenda? I'll make the motion to approve the order of the agenda.
I'll second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Moving on to item E, blue folder items. Do we have any blue folder items?
The items accompanying our first agenda item for the summer reading program, you have physically, they'll be uploaded to the blue folder. But when we get to that item, we just want to receive and file those items. Thank you.
Okay, that's L1. Okay. All right, moving on to the consent calendar, item F. Does any commissioner at this time wish to pull any items from the consent calendar?
No.
No?
No.
All right. All right, would anybody like to make the motion to approve the consent calendar items?
I so move.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we have no excluded consent calendar items. Moving on to public participation on non-agenda items, H1. Do we have any?
There are no e-comments or attendees.
Okay. Does anybody in the audience wish to speak on any non-agenda items? No.
There was a letter, though.
Yeah, was there an email?
There was an email.
Yes, and we sent that out. That's been added to the blue folder. That was an item regarding a non-agenda item.
Okay, so would it be appropriate to discuss it at this time?
Staff is not present to respond to the question, so that's been referred to the department for a response.
Okay, so at this time, it's not appropriate for us to discuss it without staff present?
Correct.
Can we make a motion to continue that item for the next commission meeting?
Absolutely.
Okay,
Where, so this, it's not with this blue,
No.
Yeah,
so where is it? Oh,
right.
I must have missed that. Okay.
do we need to make a motion to continue to discuss that item?
It depends on the response from staff. I'll have to confer. The item came in later than we usually submit. So it was a question regarding the 510 Garnet item from last agenda. We are hopeful that staff will be able to answer the questions, but as it was listed as a public comment, we want to make commission aware. So we'll bring it back if there's a needed input or response from commission. But right now, our hope is that planning will be able to resolve those questions. But it's been sent to you via email and it's added to the agenda online and on the blue folder. But they had some questions that I think would probably be best answered by the department. But again, we could bring them back to the commission as a whole if the need be.
Okay, fair
Thank
enough.
you.
Commissioner Lang, it's under H1,
Oh, okay.
in case you wanted to read it.
Okay, great. Thank you.
All right, moving on to item I, ex parte communication. Does any of the commissioners wish to disclose any instances of ex parte communication?
I have none.
Have none.
None.
All right. Moving on to item J, public hearings. There are no public hearings for tonight. Moving on to item K, items continued from previous agendas.
We have no items continued from previous agendas.
All right, moving on to item L1, discussion and possible action regarding the 2025 library summer reading program.
Yes, tonight we are very fortunate to have our new youth services librarian, Lisa Juarez. She is here tonight to join us. She was promoted to youth services librarian after working for us as a library page, a library technician. She graduated recently with her MLS, and she made it through the entire civil service process. So we know that she's competed among some of the best and brightest, and we're happy to have her join us here tonight to discuss the 2025 summer reading program. Come on up.
Hello, my name is Lisa Juarez. I'm the Youth Services Librarian for the Redondo Beach Public Library. Every year we offer a summer reading program for children, teens, and adults to help foster a love of reading, encourage routine reading time, and associate reading with fun. We also aim to prevent summer slide and a loss of academic skills for our young patrons. Last year, we managed a very successful summer reading program with a total of 2,047 participants across all ages. This year, we're excited to offer a 10-week program that starts on June 14th and extends to August 23rd. This year's theme is Level Up at Your Library, with a focus on games and puzzles and fostering creativity. The community will have their first chance to sign up on the day of our kickoff event at the main library on Saturday, June 14th, from 12 p.m. to 3 p.m., where the roundabout is transformed into a lively carnival with tables of activities and games that are run by our dedicated teen volunteers. We'll also have community departments there, like the police department and our Redondo Beach Fire Department with their fire truck. On this day, children and teens will come to the main library to sign up for the summer reading program. They'll receive a tote bag and a reading log. We'll also encourage the entire family to sign up, including parents and grandparents, because everyone can find joy in reading. It might be helpful to give an overview of all three programs. So we have the adult summer reading program for those who are 18 and older. Participants will fill out book reviews and turn them in for a chance of winning weekly drawings of gift cards. The children's summer reading program is aimed towards babies and those in 5th grade and everyone in between. They'll get reading logs to track their reading for increments of 20 minutes at a time. And for every 5 hours they read, they'll receive prizes and donated coupons of free food from local establishments. At 25 hours, they'll have completed their tracking sheet and earned a free book and an invitation to our finale party. The teen summer reading program is aimed towards those in 6th grade through 12th grade. They're given a different reading log that resembles a bookshelf to track their reading in 30-minute increments. For every 10 hours read, they'll earn a prize of their choosing from our treasure chest of prizes, as well as food coupons. Children prizes include frisbees, jump ropes, mini games, among others. And teen prizes include multicolored pens and highlighters and snacks, among others. And both will receive a free book upon completion. Each prize is paired with a coupon from one of our many sponsors, including Fresh Brothers, Raising Cane's, McDonald's, and more. In addition, we hold an opportunity prize drawing at the end of the summer reading program, where children and teens can enter into this drawing by completing book reviews that we'll post at the library so their peers can read it and get inspired for their next read. The grand prizes for this include toys and gift cards. Participants are also given a calendar of events when registering. Some events on that include our special story times, like our Pride and our Juneteenth story times. We'll also have guest storytellers from community departments, like our Redondo Beach Police Department, our Fire Department, and Municipal Services. Other children's programs include our regular crafts and our Lego clubs, but we'll also have some special programs, like our North Branch Bubble Party. And new to this summer is our Game Day for Children at the main library on August 16th, where families can play a life-size board game, kind of similar to Candyland, with oversized floor squares created by our teen volunteers. Teens will enjoy programs led by our teen librarian. Some include an interactive movie, artistic programs like painting tote bags and creating keychains. They'll have their own game day with board games and card games. They'll make their own video games using a coding program and a video game tournament. The finale parties will take place on Saturday, August 23rd at North Branch at 11 a.m. and at the main library at 2 p.m. This will be hosted by a group called Science Heroes, including hands-on experiments, fun interactive stories that will appeal to a variety of ages. Our projected summer reading registration goal for children is 1,600 participants, and for teens, 275 participants. Promotion for our summer reading program will include different avenues, such as through our social media pages. Flyers will be passed to schools and displayed through our libraries. We'll perform outreach at the schools to talk about our summer reading program to students, and we'll hang summer reading banners displayed on the physical library buildings. We'll also send information through our library and city newsletters. Finally, I'd like to extend my deepest appreciation to the Friends of the Library because they've been so receptive of me stepping into this role and fund our entire summer reading program. They allow us to be successful and best serve our community. Thank you. Is there any questions?
I have a question.
Yeah.
So, having been a parent with young children that loved these types of programs, typically we're getting the ones who already want to be reading.
Yeah.
Is there a mechanism or a partnership with the schools where if the children participate in the library program, there's some sort of incentive to grab those children, the at-risk readers,
Yeah.
and bring them in? Wanted to find out more about that.
Well, I know for some of the classes, their teachers will offer a party at the beginning of the school year if they turn in their reading log. We don't necessarily partner with that, but we definitely encourage the kids to keep their reading logs once they're finished. That way they can show their teachers. But as far as that goes, I'd be very interested with communicating to the schools to further those kind of incentives.
Got it.
Yeah.
So it's within the schools themselves. They're the ones who are encouraging the students to participate.
Correct.
Yeah.
But we are also going to the schools and doing outreach and talking. Just this week, we went to Jefferson and Lincoln Elementary to talk to the students.
Got it. Thank you.
Is there any other questions? Thank you.
you.
Thank you so much.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to item L2, discussion and possible action regarding the creation of a park ranger program subcommittee.
Okay, so I'll just provide a really brief update for you all on this. So this is a follow-up item. The Public Amenities Commission did request, if you remember, the Recreation and Parks Commission did have an active subcommittee for the Park Ranger program. So in November of 23, the Rec and Parks Commission created this subcommittee specifically because there was some concerns over activities that were going on in the parks that were enforcement related, but then also just kind of user issues and concerns. And so the Rec and Parks Commission at the time created this subcommittee specifically to look at whether or not they would like to recommend for the commission as a whole to recommend then to the city council to create a park ranger program. There's different levels to this, and this is part of what the subcommittee has done. We do have two of our current commissioners, Commissioner Lang and Chair Yosef Tsai, were on the subcommittee previously on the Rec and Parks Commission. And so the work that had been done up until the point where the Rec and Parks Commission was abolished was we did some best practices research to see what neighboring cities and agencies do with park ranger programs, and then also whether some cities just simply don't have a program. Looked at the enforcement arm of that position. Is that position able to write citations, or is it more of an educational position? What is their role? Are they just for outreach? Do they watch over the parks, or are they kind of camped at a central location and are respond based off of calls for service instead of being more proactive? And so there was some work done there. We also did meet internally with our police department as well as our recreation and park staff, who are more boots on the ground in the parks, to just get an idea of what was going on at the parks And then from both of those perspectives, areas that could be improved to where a park ranger program in whatever capacity it would look like, how that program could be helpful and more supportive of the current efforts at the locations. And so we were planning to meet with our Public Works team as well as do a follow-up meeting with our police department, because that was going to be more of an ongoing conversation piece. And that was around the time that the commissions were consolidated. So what we're doing now is just a follow-up from a request from you all, but also kind of some cleanup from consolidating our commissions. So for tonight, we're just asking you to consider whether this is still a concern of the commission, whether it's something that you all still want to consider looking into. We can create a subcommittee and staff can support that in all the efforts, obviously reaching and connecting with the various city departments. I do just want to point out that for the discussion for item L3, that item includes, as I'm sure you all know, all of the current active subcommittees on the commission. So I just want everyone to be mindful of the current workload of the commission. I certainly don't want to overburden you all with something, but at the same point, if this is important enough, we as staff can provide the support to help foster that initiative along. So with that, I'll turn it over to you. I'm happy to answer any questions, but we're just looking for guidance from you guys if you would like to continue, or I guess restart this subcommittee as part of the Public Amenities Commission.
Do you want to go?
Yeah, I do have some thoughts on this. I missed, I think, a meeting or so, and so I guess I'm curious if you think that we have like two-thirds of the information we need and we're just waiting for that extra third, or if you think that this is going to take quite a bit more investment of like time. I think I definitely remember what the goals were from my perspective, and then a lot of the other commissioners brought their own, concerns and experiences, and so I think what our goal was kind of, we weren't sure yet, like if we want. So I guess my question would be, from your perspective, you were present at the meetings, do you feel like, given the information we have, we're close to being able to make a recommendation? Or do you think this is going to be like, we need to revisit quite a few more?
I do think
departments?
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut
sorry.
you off.
Yeah, go ahead.
I do think it will likely take a few more meetings. I did forget to mention as well, one of the things we were going to do was also outreach directly with the cities that do have park ranger programs. And we had a list of questions to ask them so that we could kind of dig deeper into how their programs are structured and then the effectiveness of that, so that we're not just kind of throwing everything at our program, but it may not be responsive to the current issues that we have in our parks. So if it's helpful, essentially what's left is to do a follow-up meeting with our police department, and likely we may have to do 2 more with them because it's been so long. I think it might be good to have kind of a baseline conversation and then do a follow-up. We still need to connect with our public works team and then obviously reach out to the cities that have existing programs. From there, then it's a matter of the subcommittee creating its recommendation of whether to do a program, and if it's a recommendation to recommend the program, it's also the commission, or excuse me, the subcommittee was also tasked with drafting what that park ranger program would look like. What's the full enforcement capability of the park ranger? Is it 1 park ranger? Is it 2? Is it multiple? What kind of levels? And it doesn't have to be super detailed, but some sort of guidance so that we as staff can offer some support to council of generally how much that would cost budgetarily. So I do think there's still some work to do, but I don't see this lasting a year or 2. I think we could probably wrap it up in a few months, but it will take several meetings, I think, to really do it justice so that the subcommittee feels confident in its recommendation to the commission.
I had a couple things to just, a couple points on this item as well. It's kind of surprising. I mean, you'd mentioned that we'd started this originally in November of 2023. I mean, that's a year and a half, and this is essentially a recommendation to council to see if they want to staff a park ranger and how that would look like. obviously 2023 to now, it's a long time. And I'm only asking this question because the budget should be adopted in the next month or two. Is there any budget currently to staff a park ranger?
Not that I'm aware of. I mean,
So-
it has never been a discussion of the council that I'm aware of, so.
So I appreciate that point because, we had, I believe of all the subcommittees that, I was involved with on the Rec and Park Commission, I think we had the most meetings with this particular subcommittee. And so, I still personally believe in the importance of, making this recommendation to council if the rest of the commissioners want to reestablish this on this commission. But my only thing is that right now, if there's no possible way to have this, within the budget, we're basically giving a very detailed recommendation that, again, this is going back a year and a half when we started it. I don't know if this is something we want to shelf in the interim until we get to another budget cycle, which again, I don't want to kick the can down the road, but it is a lot of work to outreach, interface, put all this stuff together and essentially prepare the equivalent of a staff report to the council to see if they want to adopt something. So I believe in the work of it. I just don't know if everybody is on the same page, if it's going to be super beneficial to us, given the fact that like the budget's going to get adopted in the next month or so.
Yeah, and that's a pretty important distinction too. And I should have mentioned kind of the timeline of the budget. We are surpassed making a
Right.
recommendation for the next year's budget, so starting July 1st. This would be a recommendation either at mid-year, which sometimes can be a little more difficult to get additional funds, especially for staffing at mid-year, or for the following fiscal budget, which would be July of 2026 is kind of what we would be looking at. So to your point, yes, we have to figure out the timing. Do we want to put all the effort in now if we still believe it's an issue, it's a concern, and then kind of table it until the council's discussion? Or do you want to kind of wait a little bit, get a little bit closer to it, put the effort in, and then make the recommendation to council? Or is it just not something that is necessary to consider anymore? But yeah, the timing is off, unfortunately, for this budget cycle coming up.
Right. I personally, and Commissioner Lang, who also was on the subcommittee, is here too. I personally think that we had put a lot of effort to reach out to a lot of different teams and different agencies to get their feedback for it to be simply a recommendation that cannot get done at all. At least, again, we make recommendations whether the council wants to adopt it or not. It's completely on the council, right? But when we're out of budget season like this, there's no possibility or no chance for it to, right? And so I guess with that being said, I don't want to sound cynical or pessimistic about the idea, but I just want to make sure that we all see the value in it, given that for the next year, or at least till mid-year budget, there's no chance of it. So with that being said, I personally think we might want to table it, given the rest of our workload, subcommittee assignments, but maybe we can discuss it further.
I have another question. So it does sound like a lot of work and we want to be really thorough. Is there any sort of other avenue where we could explore if the council would even be interested in something like this? Like bring it, like do a high level,
Yeah.
just these are the community concerns, public amenities, would be happy to draft, or get involved with the research. And is that a possible avenue to like see if there's interest there? Or do you think we should just do the research, write the report and present it to them?
It's kind of a dual-sided question because there is an avenue for getting council's input and kind of getting their appetite for it. And I think that the most fitting would have been for the strategic plan to make that recommendation to council as part of your strategic plan suggestions, because then they could look at your letter and say, this is something we want to add to the strategic plan, or we just don't want to apply resources to that. Unfortunately, they just had that meeting about a month ago. So they typically will do that annually. So we're looking at another year for that. At any time, the commission can submit a letter to the council, and it's obviously mailed to or sent to them directly. But even from that, we can't really pull the council because then there's Brown Act violations. So without taking an item on their agenda, just to see, are you interested in us doing this? And I don't know that I've ever seen a commission do that because their agenda's already so full. I don't really know how we would do that. Now, if there was, if you counsel or feel comfortable calling one or two of them and just to kind of see, that's always an avenue as well. But we also have to be careful with Brown Act violations with that. We don't want them to get caught talking to a few people about that. So
That's what I was kind of thinking, because you had issues with e-bikes at Alta Vista. We saw kids on e-bikes on the play field, and I'm sure the council in the district council people are hearing from their community about issues. So, but I'm happy to do whatever you would like to do, whatever you would recommend. I do also think that this is important. We all see a need at our parks, and figuring out what that looks like. I'm happy to do that research and pick this back up. But again, maybe it's not right now. Maybe we put a pin in it for 3 months or whatever.
we could, if you'd like to. Your motion could be for us to bring this back to you in 3 months and kind of see where things are at that point. That could very well be the motion if you'd like it to be. So whatever you guys would like to do, if you do want to move it forward, we're happy to support it at any point.
I would agree with Commissioner Lang. I do still see the value in addressing the need for a park ranger. I just think given we're in mid-May, there's no possible chance. And this, I remember specifically, we had multiple meetings with different teams, and we have to, pull people and to do this for it to just kind of stall. But so I want to kind of be mindful of time and workload for the staff, for us, for the subcommittee assignment. So I'd be comfortable making the motion to revisit this in the next 3 months and then see if we want to pick it up at that point. So, do you guys have any?
I would say also that, because you guys did put a lot of effort into it, and there's nothing's going to happen even if you do a lot more work until 2026 at the earliest for a position.
It'd probably be mid-year at the very. So
Or it could be mid-year.
So in 3 months, we're talking about starting to put items for mid-year, yeah.
I would almost, council can also direct us, right? If they were to get feedback from the community directly, and maybe kind of wait for a signal of hey guys, if a council person was wanting us to pursue this, might be the better way to go, because they're kind of going to potentially spin your wheels. And then, you've already done a lot of work as well. So you could start it right back up at any time. You know where you are. But if there's no real pressure from the community to pursue it, then I would kind of either pause it until 3 months later, kind of as a reminder to see if we want to pursue it, or just wait till you hear from higher up.
It escapes me now, but I want to vaguely say, and I remember when we established this on the Rec and Parks Commission, there was some concern for the park ranger position, which is why I believe we created the subcommittee in the first place. So, yeah, I again, just kind of going back, I am in favor of shelving this for 3 months, because I really think at this point right now, there's no way that that we can even make the recommendation, because they got to adopt the budget. It's called, you guys have to adopt by July 1, right?
Right, we have scheduled several council agendas for discussion of the budget.
Oh, sorry. No. And I know right now, mid-May, there's no way that you guys are going to be able to input new items for the budget right now.
Yes, I don't want to speak for council, but we're pretty far along in the budget process, so it'd be challenging.
Are you going to create a committee today that you're not going to do anything on it for 3 months anyway?
And I don't want to speak for Commissioner Lang, but I can tell you, of all the subcommittees that I was involved in on Rec and Parks, that was a lot of work. So
It was tricky because we had to coordinate so many schedules also.
And now with the consolidation, I'm comfortable making the motion to revisit this agenda item in 3 months.
So maybe we should think about a goal as well. What's the goal? Is the goal to submit it for
Mid-year,
mid-year, or is it next year?
comfortable.
Okay,
I'd be
so
comfortable. At
is
least
that
there's
enough
some
time?
Yeah.
We usually do mid-year in January or February, depending on
Okay.
That's
scheduling.
perfect.
So, yeah.
Okay.
We'll be meeting over the holidays. Well,
We could fit it in if we
Okay.
needed to.
okay, great.
Yeah.
That sounds good.
Anything else before we make the motion?
I'm going to go with what I heard here because you guys were most involved in it and I'm brand new to this, so
It also, I'm sorry, it also did come up in our meeting with the local rec leagues as well, and they were supportive to the idea, so it would be something that I think people would be interested in. So there's that.
Great. Okay. So would you like me to do the motion? Okay, so
If you would like.
I move that we revisit bringing back the Park Ranger Program Subcommittee in 3 months with a goal of submitting it, the recommendation or the request or the staff report by mid-year budget submittals.
The discussion of creating the park
No,
grant?
no, the report that we're gonna work on.
No, but is the motion to bring back the subcommittee in 3 months or the discussion of possibly bringing it back?
Oh, bring it back. Did I say possibly? Yeah, the motion, I'm always so bad at these. Okay, I move to reconvene the Park Ranger Program Subcommittee in 3 months. Should I add the goal? With the goal of submitting the completed report by mid-year budget talks? I don't know. What are these terms?
I don't know. I'll wait and see if there's a second, and then I just have a comment to
Okay.
that if you don't, I don't want to interrupt the process.
I would do the item for tonight as just, we want to bring that up
I
in
would
3
do-
months.
I would,
And then we'll have the discussion and then you could add the report then. Because technically the committee doesn't exist.
right, that, I was going to say the same thing.
Okay, so what's the motion?
Can we continue item L2 in 3 months?
In 3 months.
Oh, okay. I move to continue item L2 in 3 months.
I'll second that motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Can I just ask for clarification? I just want to make sure we're responding to you guys appropriately. So you want us to come back in 3 months for you to reconsider whether to convene?
Yes.
Okay, got it. Okay, thank you.
All right, moving on to item L3, Commission Subcommittee Review and Project Updates.
I don't have any updates unless someone from one of the subcommittees does or has a question.
I was just going to mention, any updates on the bylaws subcommittee. I know Commissioner Morocco's not here today, but I believe we're waiting for clarification from the city clerk's office.
There was a discussion internally regarding the format of the rules of order for council, and when that's revisited, then we would assume that the bylaws would be then in place as a template for each commission, and then we'd revisit our subcommittee and address any specifics to the Public Amenities Commission. I know we had discussed perhaps discussing the tasks of the commission, but we were waiting on that, and I hope to have an update next meeting.
Okay, excellent. Can you?
I'm sorry.
No, go for it.
I have a question regarding the Franklin Park Subcommittee. Is there a plan to include a member of the public who has a child with needs that
Yes.
would, okay,
Yes, they will be included.
okay.
There
And
will be
are-
several stakeholders from the community that have some sort of a connection to either the park or some sort of disability that would be able to be responsive in the playground.
And what is that selection process to find those members?
I'm not too sure exactly how that's, because I think they're still forming it. So I can circle back and see how they're making that selection.
Okay. Is it possible for us to make a recommendation if we know of somebody?
Sure, of course,
Okay.
yeah. If you do have a recommendation, please forward that to me and I could send it over to the.
Great.
Yeah,
Thank you.
of course.
And then the only other thing that I have for subcommittee reviews and project updates is that for the party planning with Commissioner Rowe for the city's birthday. The city's birthday happened a few weeks ago, so I don't know if we want to dissolve the subcommittee now so we don't leave it active, or we want to.
That would probably be a good recommendation if everybody confers. If someone wants to make a motion to dissolve that, it certainly frees up some commissioners.
Right, so, okay, so again, the review was that the birthday party went off, it was really nice. I took my wife, my kid there. I saw Commissioner Morocco. There's quite a few people. The weather was kind of iffy. I don't know if the Stillwater stuff happened given the weather, but there was still quite a bit of turnout at the Morale House as well. So I think that was the objective. The sole objective of the subcommittee was to help plan that. And I believe the objective has been completed. So I'll make the motion at this time to dissolve the party planning subcommittee.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Anybody else for item L3?
Just for the facility users, we're winding down to the spring season. So the spring leagues are finishing up and All-Stars are beginning for softball and baseball. And come August, I think, will be the transition into soccer. So that'll be coming up pretty fast. So I haven't heard anything. So I think things are going pretty smooth on that front.
Excellent. All right, if there's no other items for L3, moving on to item M, items from staff.
I don't have too much. I just wanted to bring to your attention that at last night's council meeting, we were requested by Councilmember Kalujanovich to explore the possibility of a sensory room at the library. Since we just got that, I do know a little bit about that, but I'm going to do some research and we'll bring back a BRR to kind of scope out what the feasibility is. We're not sure if it's possible this budget year, but we want to be able to evaluate it and bring it back. But I wanted you all to be aware as commissioners that we are exploring that.
Thank you. Anything else?
No.
All right. Moving on to item N, commission member items and future commission agenda topics. Want to go first?
Sure. So after, this is just kind of like a note on something that we discussed last meeting. So we heard that that item about the preservation, the home with the red home with the proposed addition on, it was like 5 sides. So it was right, left, vertical, and extended to the back.
510 Garnett.
That's Garnett, yeah.
Yeah, 510 Garnett. And I was thinking a lot about the discussion that happened here and about what we're tasked with doing on this commission in terms of the preservation aspect of it. And there was a lot of words thrown around, like I used the word feel and you used the word objective. And so it got me to thinking about the process. And what I was thinking is that the planning commission or the planning department really seems to take a really objective approach to checking the boxes on the criteria that's required to even get the project to this commission. And the reason why I believe we talked about it for so long is because there was nothing in the criteria that they were looking for that referenced a corner lot with expansions on, 4 sides or whatever. And so it was really up to us to look at the presentation, the renderings, and hear discussion from the community, and then kind of take all that and make the decision. And I feel like I still need a little bit more experience with this to be really confident in like the questions that I'm asking, and even even voting to approve projects like that. But I did want to say that I believe that the reason why there is a preservation commission is because they are looking for insight from stakeholders. And there is an aspect of subjectivity that goes into approving projects like this. And so I just want to really encourage everyone to kind of allow the commissioners to ask the questions that we need to understand kind of like how we're going to vote. And, you know, I feel like I left the meeting that night and felt like not very settled with the discussion that happened. And so I know that I'm going to continue to ask questions and, you know, be respectful and, you know, so that's it.
I appreciate what you said, because I had the same feeling, and I still, you know, there's still questions in my mind, and I keep going back and asking myself if, you know, if I voted correctly.
Mhm.
But yeah, there are some things that are within our purview as, you know, when we're looking at preservation items, and other things that just feel incorrect.
Mhm.
And that, you know, we have to be really careful, you know, and the questions, I truly appreciate that our joined commission, that the commissioners are asking very valuable questions, because we should be doing the right thing by not just the homeowner, but for the neighbors, right? As you know, I questioned how voting for the project would impact the neighbors and the sewer lines. That to me was a question of safety. And, you know, I hope that, yeah, I just wanted to say that I appreciate what you just said. So I have a couple of questions here. So that parcel of land that, that the city was awarded, that is now becoming a little park, and the council voted to fund the landscape for it.
I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with.
So there's a piece of land that was under the power lines.
Redondo.
Along Redondo,
Oh,
and you know
yes.
which one I'm talking about?
Yes, sorry, I thought it was a more recent acquisition, that's why I was confused.
Well,
Sorry.
it's pretty recent. It was pretty recently approved.
Yes.
Or,
Yeah.
you know, that whole thing was negotiated, and it's been in negotiations for a very long time, but it was just recently, you know, resolved, and the city council voted to fund the landscape part of it. So my question is, because it's going to be a park, right? So we as a commission, it never came to us. We never heard anything about it. No presentation was made. And unless we're following along, you know, what's happening at the council level, we don't know, you know, or if I'm reading Redondo Beach residents page and I'm getting my news through there. I just, you know, out of the respect for what we do here as commissioners, I feel that is, you know, something that should come to us, that should have been presented to us. So I just wanted to say, are we going to get some sort of presentation as to what's happening, what's being planned?
Yeah, I don't have an answer for you for that. You know, there's always this kind of, there's a few different ways the projects can come across your plate. It could either be staff initiated, it could be something you guys request of us, or it can be city council initiated. So oftentimes with parks, the council may not necessarily need your input, not that it's not valuable, but they may have already done some outreach, or they already know what needs to go there. A master plan was done long ago, or whatever the case may be. And so I just don't want to set the expectation that anything that happens at parks has to come through this body. In a perfect world, that would be the case, but sometimes it's much more efficient and not necessarily needed. And so I don't, specific to your question, I really don't know exactly whether anything will come before this commission, but I can certainly find out. To be frank, I am not super versed on that project, so I would have to do a little bit of research myself, but we can certainly follow up with some information for you.
Yeah, it's not that we would need to render our opinion onto something if the council felt that we didn't need to do that work, but we should have knowledge of things that pertain to parks, because that's part of our commission. I felt a little bit ignorant when I was asked a question about it, and, that shouldn't be the case. We should, the council, the city should provide information to us in a formal way, and we shouldn't have to go read it, on social media, or if I happen to read the council agendas and see something about that. And I just wanted to express that. And next, so last month, I asked our city manager, for an update on the sound study. And it seems like we're still waiting, unless I've missed something on the council's agenda. Has that come?
The agreement has been approved.
Awesome.
And we're working with them. We're hoping to schedule it for early June is kind of looks like the sweet spot with staff schedules as well as the consultant schedules. So we're moving forward with getting a date identified so that we can do the noticing.
Okay, awesome. And will we be able to get the date for when that sound study is happening?
Yes,
Okay, thank you.
of course.
Commissioner McCall.
No, I have nothing for staff, other than that, that's happened before on the Parks Commission, where we find out after the fact.
Well, it was the
I don't know how you
Seaside
fix
Lagoon?
that.
Yeah, Seaside Lagoon, we were asking to hear about it, but we never heard anything.
If there would just be like an update would be the most, just like, this is either gonna happen or whatnot, but seems to be a pattern, but I don't know how you fix that, just because they can do that. It's just the way it is.
It also kind of seems like one of those things, like, I'm sure Public Works is going to have a big hand in kind of building out the park or something, and your departments are separate, whereas in some cities, that would take, like, your own staff would be building that out or something kind of along those lines.
Yeah, there's always this kind of dichotomy when there's a project in the park, because to your point, Public Works has a hand in it. And then it's a matter of which commission is involved in what and the various levels, and how do we make sure we're crossing all those Ts. But at the same point, if council wants us to move forward with the project and they say, hit go, and this is what we want, there's no need to take it back to the commissions in that case. So there may be cases where an item goes to the Public Works Commission, or vice versa. It may come here and not go to Public Works, and then their team is the one building it. So every project is different. There's nuances to all of them, but let me think about this a little bit and see if there's something we can do to give you guys at least, baseline information. I certainly don't want any of you to feel caught off guard by items that you're asked by the community. On the flip side as well, if you are asked a question and aren't sure how to answer it, please feel free to refer anyone to me or my team, and we can certainly follow up with that person individually and then make sure you have the same information as well. So don't be nervous to send them our way as well.
I just have a couple of items. First one, just, I bothered you enough about this, Kelly, over, the previous meetings regarding e-bike signage at Dale Page Park. I do see certain signage. Do you know if there's specific e-bike signages like throughout Dale Page? Because like I go to Dale Page, I'm not kidding, maybe 5 times a week. I play basketball kind of mid-work day there. And there's kids wheeling across the pickleball courts, coming through, beeline and get across Robinson onto the bike paths. And it's, children are playing at the playground, young kids a lot of time. So it's it seems like it's just something's gonna happen eventually. Like, I don't mean to say it sounding like, doom and gloom, but it just seems like people are getting more reckless riding their e-bikes like that, speeding through, cutting, So I don't know if there's any remedy to request like signage is there, particularly pertaining to e-bikes through the park. I don't want to say, is there any enforcement capability of something like that, but like because I've clearly seen frustration from people too, young kids are just running around and older kids are just beelining it with e-bikes, so.
Yeah, the last we spoke, we had connected with our police department and they were gonna circle back with their code enforcement to get some closer eyes on that park, just to kind of see what the kind of traffic was looking like, to see then what we could recommend. Admittedly, I never followed back up with them to see what the results were for that. So that's on me. I will follow up and see what they viewed. And then from there, we're going to connect with our public works department to see, is it as simple as, creating lines on the pavement so that there's kind of two lanes, and then maybe doing even, to your point, signage. I think we even talked about like speed limitations as well, but then there's also the concern with the enforcement piece of it. How probable and how likely is it to enforce something like that? So
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm kind of hoping that maybe signage at first can be like the first line of
Yeah.
deterrence, because, I've been kind of going mid-afternoon, like when a lot of the older kids are let out of school, and I've seen some people try to like park their bike and try to hop and peek over the houses that align Dale Page. And I'm like, come on, guys, like, seriously, in the middle of like people playing in the park. So I'm not quite sure why, but it just seems like there's more that kind of activity happening as well. So I did want to follow up on signage to
Sure.
see if that's at least like the first level of deterrence. The second thing is I just kind of want to continue the discussion regarding the Mills Act stuff that we've been doing, because I do feel that that's kind of become a thing where we're spending a lot of time going through, like those public hearings take a lot. And I know that there used to be a commission, like the Historic and the Preservation Commission used to deal with that solely, but they got consolidated with this. I do think that I agree with, what the other commissioners said, that this is turning into something that like, there's a lot of responsibility that we have with this. This isn't something that's simply making recommendations to the council. Like, these are our neighbors' lives, livelihood, cost, money. And I do want to say that while it's important to really ask all these questions, we really should be mindful that every time we continue a discussion pertaining to a home, there's additional cost to a neighbor that go into doing that, right? So like Garnett, 510 Garnett was already a continuation. The previous preceding meeting, we had discussion of subjectivity. We all said that we didn't feel that this was a certain thing. We didn't do this. And the previous meeting, the subsequent meeting from that, which was our previous meeting, was just to come back and address what we had already said to them. So again, I just want to clarify that we're not simply being objective as it pertains to this process. That particular property, we had given clear subjective direction for the homeowner to comply with, and the homeowner came back and showed that they were complying with it. So however everyone voted on it, that's a different story. But I just want to kind of highlight the importance of both subjective and objective overview when we review this, right? We all do have a responsibility to see if subjectively a property makes sense and it's aesthetic. But for this particular property, we had already done that. And then they'd come back and try to show that they satisfy that. So I just want to kind of make that point. It is something that, I personally feel that it's something that is amongst the most important kind of tasks that this commission is doing, because, people put lots of money into preserving these homes. They're on timelines. Every time, an architect comes into a meeting, like, that's money. Every time a homeowner takes away, any time we continue this and it delays their building, that's money. So like, whether this is a little bit, I observe this as a little bit different than making recommendations to council about this, right? So if there's something that we can do to kind of streamline the process or at least address it. I just want to make mention that, again, like that should be a responsibility that we don't overlook. It's not like an item that we'll say, okay, let's pick up in 3 months, or, you know, there's no possibility of getting it. Like, we want to take a look as streamlined and as we possibly can. So I just wanted to make mention of that pertaining to 510 Garnett, because this was already discussed. We had already given direction. It came back. So I think it really was about, did they satisfy what we'd previously said or not? So,
Well, I think there was some new information that came through, and it's also worth mentioning that entering into the Mills contract where you get significant public subsidy is voluntary. So if the idea is that you just want to build your big house and you don't want any input from the community, you can certainly do that. But if you decide that you want to come to this commission, you should expect that the process might take a little bit longer than, and actually, the Planning Commission, it takes some time to go through the permitting process regardless.
yeah.
So I think it's completely reasonable what we've done here. And I mean, I think that Andrew and the Planning Commission probably talks the homeowners through the process, and they understand what it is.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's saying that, you know, we're doing anything. I mean, I can say this from firsthand knowledge. To submit plans, to go through plan check, to get it through a planner at the city, to get it through the architectural reviews, to get it through everything, then agendizing it and bringing it to a commission, we're talking about like at least 9 months, 10 months. So this isn't, so again, with respect to the process, it's not like the homeowner decided one day I want to agendize this and get this built. We're talking about quite a lofty process. And I also will remind, like, for the most part, when staff brings an item for us to review, they're okaying it on the staff's end. This isn't like the staff is saying, oh, we don't think it's going to be approved. Obviously, we need to go through our own due diligence with it, and that's why it's brought to us in the first place. But this is like, it's brought to us after the staff have reviewed its appropriateness, and they're asking us to make the recommendation, yes or no. So again.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that you know, we need to ask the question and get the clear answer is, what are we here for? If we're just here to say, oh, well, the staff already did it, so we're just gonna, and they recommend that we approve this, then where do we come in? And I think the city's required to have a preservation commission, like it's.
But I think that's a secondary, I think that's a different point, because the Preservation Commission got absorbed by this commission. So I think that's one point, but I would make the argument that that's exactly what staff is asking us to do. They're asking us to review and approve the Mills Act and the other component to it. Typically, the wording escapes me, but they are making that recommendation to us. Now, I would say that it is our responsibility to either say yay or nay. Is there historic significance to this or not? If the staff is saying that there is, and I say, or another commissioner says that person shouldn't be a historic figure, that's our argument. But if we're gonna get into, I mean, again, you can speak to us, Dana, if you think that.
Well, I just want to say that I certainly understand, and I think your comments, all of them are valid, and I do think that I would like to communicate that to the planning department and maybe see what their resolution or recommendation for this is. But I do, I do believe it's very valid, and I think the process is important, and it's important to get feedback from commission when these items are brought up. But certainly, as the chair brings a matter to our attention, that usually these items are recommendations that staff have vetted, but at the same time, community input is extremely valuable, and you raise a lot of concerns, and they're valid. So what I'd like to do is maybe convey these sentiments back to the planning department and see what their guidance might be in the future.
And may I also add, do you think we're able to, with respect to like staff resources, not to maybe have a person from the planning department, if they want to come speak to this commission about, things to consider in addition?
I will convey that. I don't want to speak for the department, but
I know,
what I'm hearing right now, I mean, if it was a library issue, I think it's important to address in some manner and fashion so that the process is smooth, voices are heard, concerns are heard. At the same time, we're respecting the process. So I'm getting everybody's input now, and we'll convey that to the planning department and see what can happen to streamline the process. And again, make sure the voices and concerns are heard, but the recommendation is addressed.
I think we have to be careful not to become a rubber stamp commission. There's a reason why we're here. There's a reason why the Preservation Commission was originally established. And, we're providing an extra level of oversight. For example, that house on 510 Garnett at the last meeting, we were given some information by a member of the public that we didn't know about. And that was the problem with the sewer lines. And to me, that was a significant issue, reason for which when we made the motion, I wanted it to be subject to a study being done on how those sewer lines were going to affect the neighbors. And we have to also be careful not to interject our own personal experiences with building our own homes or extensions or whatever, as substantiation for why we should just push something through. So that we have to be very careful about that.
That's a good point.
Yeah, I would also make the argument that I take exception to any indication that we're rubber stamping anything. The fact that this item was brought to us in, what is this? We're in May. So it was brought to us in March and we continued it for April. So we're not rubber stamping anything, or there's no indication that, that's the purview of what we're doing. And I think our experiences provide significance to reviewing these items. It provides context to identifying like what the homeowners are going through as it pertains to this. So,
Chair, if I don't want to interrupt, I want to echo Mr. Vinke's comments. This is an incredibly valuable conversation. I think it's really important to really get this consolidated commission moving forward. We're all still trying to find our place with this consolidation. But I just want to mention, this is not an agendized topic. And so I just want to be really careful that we don't get too much into the conversation. We can certainly agendize it for future discussion if you'd like to. We can do that. I know Dana said that he would refer this to the planning department, excuse me. So unless we want to agendize it further, I would just recommend that we stop talking about that particular item just because it is not formally on the agenda.
fair enough.
I would really love to agendize it. I feel like I need a little bit more direction with this aspect of this commission.
Yeah, is it possible if you can see it, maybe see if you can bring us an update next meeting if the planning department would be interested to speak to us, maybe in July?
I will convey that to them, absolutely.
Yep.
Would it be possible to, because these items take a long time and they are pretty serious stuff that needs, we need to understand all the details of what's going on. Would it be possible to bring these items on a dedicated meeting for just the public hearings, whereas we don't do the other agenda items? So we can kind of dedicate to that. And then maybe every other meeting or every 2 meetings, it becomes a meeting that's just dedicated to those items. Would that be a possibility, or do we have to go through our agenda every meeting?
I think that's I mean, it's a good idea. And again, we might want to move this to a separate agenda for discussion. It probably would fall most likely under the bylaws, but it's a discussion and a good thought and something that we could consider, something that.
Because we're trying to do all of the issues that we have, which is good, and the city kind of threw this all together, but just kind of logistically, the way things work, we kind of keep on having kind of a similar problem.
Yeah.
So maybe they're just, I don't know if that's we added in the agenda that we talk about, just different ideas to kind of figure this out, because it's going to continue to be a problem.
Yeah. So just to be clear, you're asking for him to reach out to planning and then report back to us at the next meeting to see if we can agendize it for the next meeting? Is that what you're saying?
Yes. That's good.
I would just caution that we would bring it back as soon as possible. I don't know what their schedule or staff time is like, so we can convey that. And, as soon as logistically possible, we bring back an item. Recommend, that planning brings back a preservation item that kind of addresses the concerns and thoughts that were brought tonight, if that makes sense.
Can we just agendize it and then we'll see if they can come in June, or if they can't come in June, they can just come in July? Is that?
I would just say it's kind of up to the department. I don't want to speak for them. The commission, of course, can make.
No, it's more of like a, should we just move to agendize it for June? And then if they can come,
No, I think we shouldn't agendize something without their discussion. I mean, we would preferably have somebody from planning come here. So I don't know if we want to agendize an item that they may or may not be able to come. I'd rather get the commitment that they can come and then agendize the item.
Right. Typically, for example, I mean, the item tonight on the park ranger was something that had been recommended, I think, a few months ago, that it be brought forward on the agenda. And fortunately, we were able to do that. So I think certainly would try to make it a priority, and I convey that to planning department. And of course, I think, depending on staff time and availability, we would try to make it, and again, I don't want to speak for them, but as soon as possible. So whether that would be at the preference June meeting or a July meeting or potentially August, we would want to bring it forward as soon as possible. But again, I don't want to speak for the department, but if you want to make a motion that an item be brought back regarding the Public Amenities Commission's oversight in the view of these historic properties. So you'd probably be able to articulate a little bit better than I am right now, but we could bring that back for guidance on that, which is what I'm thinking it would be. And again, I'd want to confer with them. I don't want to speak for them, just like I wouldn't want the planning department speaking for the library, although I'm sure they're really well versed on the library by now.
oh, I thought you would just ask for them to come and then they just come when they're available. But you want us to agendize asking for next month? Like, I'm unclear on the process.
Oh, okay. So for example, again, using the park ranger item, several months ago, it was requested that.
2 months ago, then?
I believe so. Do you remember? I don't remember how long ago it was, but we didn't.
It's been a few months. I don't
It's
remember
been a few months.
many.
I don't remember. It's been kind of.
Yeah.
But that was a recommendation by the commission that we agendize the park ranger program to revisit it. And we were able to bring that one back. So, I would just.
The next month or the?
It just was for the future.
Oh, so we can say, we would like to agendize this for the future, and then
Yes.
they will
I'm
let
sorry
us
for the
know when they're
confusion.
available.
Yeah, but we
Oh,
would, of course,
okay.
again, I don't want to speak for them, but
I
I would say
understand
that if it
that
was
you
the
don't
library,
have
we
their
would bring it
schedule,
back.
totally
Exactly.
understandable.
But we
Yeah.
would just say for the future, and then I would convey that to them, and we would see what we would want. But the only thing I would, again, request is maybe a little bit more specifics. And the word that comes to my mind, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but for guidance on the process, or, what you've articulated some concerns. Is there anything specific that you would like them to address, or is it just on the oversight process? If you have any more details, or if you individually want to, without creating a quorum, want to send me an email with some points that you'd like addressed, I can
I think
convey that to them.
For me, that would make the most sense, because I wrote down a lot of notes
that'd
on
be
this
great. Okay.
this subject to just kind of bring up briefly. And so I think that instead of coming to some sort of collective concern,
Okay.
I'll just, have some very specific
You-
things that.
We
Yeah.
could agendize a discussion for like the next meeting or the future meeting, if we
Mhm.
wanted to do that. Just a discussion on topics related to that. And then we can either have a discussion or not that night, but it would be agendized
Mhm.
if we voted for it, right?
Yeah, if I can offer just a quick interjection with that, I want it to be the most helpful for you. So I would recommend that if you do want to agendize something for the future, that you're very specific in the request, so that that next meeting will have a detailed report with the information that you're looking for, because then you can actually take action that night. If you just say, we want to have a future discussion about, the Mills Act, for example, there's no like end goal, there's no like recommendation or no, and there's the opportunity that there may be information associated with the Mills Act that you're interested in that won't be included. And if we can't answer to it that night, we don't want you to have to delay for another meeting. So to go back to Dana's point, if you can be very succinct in what it is that you're looking for in that discussion, we can be responsive to that in the report so that you will feel comfortable making whatever recommendation or additional request that same evening. It won't delay that conversation another month. I don't know if that
But
helps
if
or
we
not.
don't know the specifics right now, right, would
like I
a
have
discussion be helpful with the other members to kind of get their input on maybe the discussion endpoint would be to come up with the specifics to submit to staff to then come back?
Right. I guess at the core of it, the question is, what is it that you are hoping to get out of this next presentation?
Yeah.
Are you looking for more information on the Mills Act? Are you looking for more information on the entire process related to those items that come before you that are preservation related? What is it that you're hoping to get out of that? And then from there, we could either respond to it in that report, or we can come back with just general information on the process and whatever it is. I'm still unclear on what it is exactly you're hoping for that discussion.
Okay, so for example, the first time 510 Garnett came through, they had removed some windows on the frontage, okay? But I believe the staff report still said, like, we recommend, this comes up for a review and then you move on with the process or whatever. But this commission looked at the rendering and made recommendations to change. So I guess the question for me is, if the staff is making a recommendation that we move forward and we're kind of just saying, oh, well, they did their due diligence, like we're just, just here to say yes, I want to know that so I don't waste anybody's time with questions. And I want to know what the expectation is and what the purpose of the Preservation Commission is. If they're doing all this work and they're coming to us and they're saying, well, we got it to a place where we're comfortable, what are we here for? That's what I want to know. And I think the city is required to have a Preservation Commission component because it deals with property taxes or something. Like, I just want to make sure that I'm doing the best job that I can. And I want to know if, what the expectation is. I mean, maybe I should go and watch another Preservation Commission's meeting and see how they're operating. I don't know if that clarifies it, but I think we need a little bit more direction.
So it's specific to the preservation arm assigned to this commission.
That, for me, it is. I can't talk for the rest of them.
I would agree, and I would speculate that others as well that are absent tonight may have the same. I think what I observed is that when we came together with this commission, we have really one or two experts, I would call you expert in this area compared to me, and that's very helpful to lean on their experiences. So yeah, I would recommend that, maybe staff can kind of give us a, one-on-one course on the Mills Act, or you spend some time kind of, I don't know, I mean, but something helpful to kind of provide guidance for the rest of the commission to kind of, so we're making these decisions with the best information we have, with the best guidance we should have, because otherwise we're doing a disservice to the constituents that are here making their applications.
So if I may, maybe it would be a good idea for all of us to come up with the questions that we would like to have answered and send them to, what's that?
And then submit that to staff.
Yeah.
And then submit that to staff. And then we can move from there to see, you can find out, either they can directly answer them, come back and present to us. Regarding the Mills Act, that's all within, the public domain. And, I've done some reading up on that as well. So anything regarding the Mills Act, we can just study on our own. I don't think we need to, bother staff and take up their time with that.
How do we move forward with the motion? What would you recommend, Kelly?
Do we need to make a motion?
I'm not
on-
sure you do
Yeah.
at this
Yeah.
point.
Oh,
I
okay.
think
This
it might
is
be
just
best,
Item agenda topics.
again, to just, I know you're all aware, but it bears repeating, just to make sure we're in compliance with the Brown Act. If you send me those things individually, I can consolidate them and get them to planning. And then between us, we can determine maybe how best to address them. And it might be just that those questions get answered. But it might be also, I'm thinking, it might be an item for discussion or being brought back. So right now, I think you don't need to make a motion. I think a recommendation, and we can convey this individually to the other commissioners, to send me directly your questions, as we had said before, and then I will consolidate them and discuss with the department how best to address them.
So you'll send a follow-up email to all of us so that we all have that same email that says, this is what came up during our meeting, and if you would like to submit some questions, because they won't know what unless they're watching our meeting, what we're talking about.
Yeah.
I think in compliance with the Brown Act, I can
Yeah,
reach
we
out
gotta-
individually to the commissioners and let them know that this item came up, summarize what was discussed, invite them to watch it on YouTube, and then to send me directly as liaison any sort of questions or concerns they might have that relate to this discussion. And then, again, I can consolidate that and discuss with the department or convey that to the department, and they can decide how maybe best to address those concerns. Does that make sense?
All right, anything else? All right, moving on to item O, adjournment. Somebody like to make a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn?
I'll second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.